I spoke with Neil deGrasse Tyson on my podcast, and this is what I learned. I saw a side of Neil deGrasse Tyson that I was not expecting. We tapped into the conversation of September 11th and how those events shaped his life. And clearly those events were very personal to me because I lost my dad in the towers, as I've mentioned before. But this was an emotional side of Neil that maybe you're not used to. I know I wasn't used to. It's often that we hear him talk about the universe, the cosmos, and science in a more objective manner. And this was interesting to hear how, after experiencing 9/11 so closely and intimately, his emotional brain and his rational brain were scrambled, as he said. So to hear him actually be a little bit more vulnerable in explaining how he felt he couldn't control his emotions after that day, as he was so used to doing, was a really cool, interesting look into the mind of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I got a firsthand look at someone who witnessed the 9/11 attacks. But for me, this was a very emotional part of the episode. First off, maybe you knew, but I had no idea that he lived 4 blocks away and was so close to the attacks. But this was the first time I get to sit with someone who was there and described it in intimate detail, what he experienced, what he felt, and what he saw. And as someone who lost his dad in the World Trade Center, I've always had this weird feeling that I wanted to be there. I was 12 years old at the time, so what the hell was I going to do? Nothing. But to hear it from Neil in a way that I never heard it, in a way that, maybe most people would not describe those events based on his background, I thought it was super interesting, and I thought it was a side of Neil deGrasse Tyson that maybe a lot of you, and I know I, haven't seen before. The improbability that we were even born. Now, I've always had the perspective of being grateful that I'm alive, yada, 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 all that nice stuff. He breaks down the probability and statistics that we even exist. And the numbers blew me away. I'm pretty sure in the video, when I look back at it, I looked completely shocked and a little overwhelmed because I started feeling a little bit of an anxiety attack of how improbable it is that we're even here. And he used that perspective to act with motivation and act with gratefulness that we're even here, and even the fact that we exist is so unlikely. So I'll let you listen to the episode and get to that part because it is unfathomable, and it really shifted my perspective of looking at it from that statistical, more objective standpoint of the fact that we even exist is truly amazing. So if you're interested in seeing a side of Neil deGrasse Tyson that maybe you haven't seen before, hearing stories about September 11th and his look into life and death, this is a perfect episode for you to tap into. I do hope you go listen to it. It was cool to look into the mind of a man who has a totally different perspective on the universe and the world than I think a lot of people, especially me. So I had a real good chat with him. It was a really exciting conversation. It was a different conversation, and I hope you guys check out the new episode of Dead Talks, episode 102 with Neil deGrasse Tyson.